Hello and welcome in today's session. The topic we have chosen for today is Mahatma Gandhi and environmental concerns. The environmental concerns as we understand today was not there at the time of Gandhi, but his ideas on development, technology, self-sufficiency, village Swaraj, etc. disclose his environmental concerns. The earth has enough resources for our need, but not for our greed. This is most often quoted phrase by Gandhi depicts his concern for nature and environment. Gandhi considered the earth a living organism. His ideas were expressed in terms of two fundamental laws, cosmic law and the law of species. Cosmic law views the entire universe as a single entity. Nothing could malfunction outside the threshold limits built into the grand system that includes both living and non-living phenomena. He believed that the universe was structured and informed by the cosmic spirit, that all men, all life, and indeed all creation were one. He wrote, I believe in the Advaita, non-duality. I believe in the essential unity of man, and for that matter, of all the lives. Therefore, I believe that if one man gains spirituality, the world gains with him, and if one man fails, the whole world fails to that extent. All the international conferences, such as the Stockholm Conference of 1972 or the Rio Earth Summit in 1992, were convened much later than the concerns raised by Gandhi about the environment and its effects. Even in India, the major movements to protect environment, such as the Chipko movement led by Chandi Prasad Bhatt and Sundarlal Bahuguna, and the Narmada Bachao Andolan by Baba Amte and Medha Patkar, derived inspiration actually from Gandhi. The concern of Gandhi about the environment, urbanization, and mechanization was evident in the speeches, writings, and his messages to the workers. It is appropriate to note that he was the world's early environmentalist in vision and in practice. Truth, non-violence and satyagraha. Truth and non-violence are the fundamentals of Gandhian philosophy. Non-violence or ahimsa means no injury. But to Gandhi, non-violence was much more than the absence of violence. He used it to mean non-injury to thought, word, and deed. Ahimsa, satyagraha, and tapasya were the basic principles that guided his life. Gandhi claimed that truth was the most correct and fully significant term that could be used for God. To practice ahimsa is to realize truth, and to realize truth is to practice ahimsa. The concept satyagraha gave practical expression to the religious and ethical ideals of truth and non-violence. Tapasya or self-sacrifice is necessary to achieve the highest truth. It involves freedom from fear and willingness to die. Gandhi believed that satyagraha is nothing but tapasya for the truth. The suffering that has to be undergone in satyagraha is tapasya in its fullest form. The ecological scope of non-violence is unlimited. Gandhi's faith in non-violence and vegetarianism made him a votary of conservation of all diversity, including all forms of life, societies, cultures, religions, and traditions. Arne Naess, the pioneer of deep ecology, argued that ecological preservation is non-violent in nature. Naess introduced and Thomas Weber systemized the relation between non-violence, self-realization, and mutual dependence of all living beings in the following points. Self-realization presupposes a search for truth. All living beings are one. Himsa, or violence against oneself, makes self-realization impossible. Himsa against a living being is himsa against oneself. Himsa against a living being makes complete self-realization impossible. Naes used these principles to evolve a broader philosophy of environmentalism, that is, deep ecology. He believed that Gandhi utopia is one of the few that shows ecological balance. As Gandhi envisaged, non-violence has the power to solve all our problems, including ecological crisis. Many thinkers considered the Indian environmental movements like Chipko movement, Narmada Bachao Andolan, etc. as the living example of Gandhian environmentalism, and they consider Gandhi as a man with deep ecological view of life, a view much too deep even for deep ecology. The key agenda of the Chipko movement was that carrying forward the vision of Gandhi's mobilization for a new society where neither man nor nature is exploited and destroyed, which has the civilizational response to a threat to human survival. Gandhi and evils of urbanization. Gandhi has cautioned the world much before the modern-day environmentalists about the problems of large-scale industrialization which we are confronting today. Gandhi visualized that mechanization will not only lead to industrialization, to massive urbanization, to unemployment, but will also lead to the destruction of environment. His seminal work, Hind Swaraj, written 100 years ago in 1909, warned of the dangers the world is facing today in the form of environmental destruction and the threat to the planet. The Gandhian idea becomes still more relevant when sustainable growth and development is to be achieved, because he emphasized on production by the masses instead of mass production. According to him, this will result in the development of an economic system that can minimize environmental degradation and achieve sustainable development. His idea of Swaraj or self-rule enables a practical sustainable development that can be implemented without compromising the quality of life. Regarding urbanization, Gandhi expressed his views as follows. It is a process of double drain from the villages. Urbanization in India is a slow but sure death for her villages and villagers. It can never support 90% of India's population, which is living in her 7 lakh villages, which was the number in 1934. He was against the concept of removing cottage industry from small villages, as he felt that this would remove whatever little opportunity was settled there for making skilled use of the hand and head. And when the village handicrafts disappear, the villagers working only with their cattle on the field, with idleness for 6 or 4 months in the year, must be reduced to the level of the beast and be without proper nourishment either of mind or the body, and therefore without joy and without hope. As a matter of historical record, Gandhi was acutely aware of environmental pollution and of its consequences to human health. He was especially concerned about the appalling working conditions in industry, with workers forced to inhale contaminated toxic air. He expressed those concerns in Indian Opinion on May 5, 1906. Nowadays, there is an increasing appreciation among enlightened men of the need for open air. Non-violence and conservation of resources. I need no inspiration other than nature's. She has never failed me as yet. She mystifies me, bewilders me, sends me to ecstasies. The Gandhian idea of non-violence, if adopted at various levels from international politics to local levels, can be useful to reduce carbon footprints caused due to wars and production of nuclear arsenal. Gandhi had emphasized the importance of natural resources and its conservation. This has a direct bearing on the man-environment relationship. The importance of Gandhian philosophy is well felt in the present world in which the lifestyle of human beings has been developed in a direction of high consumerism and generation of waste only. This has a two-way impact on nature. Firstly, the rate of depletion of resources has increased tremendously, and secondly, the presence of toxicity in air, water, and soil has increased. Satya and Ahimsa and conservation of biodiversity. Gandhi was influenced by Jainism, which looks at nature as a living entity and exhorts human beings to continually purify themselves by respecting diverse life forms. The Gandhian idea of Satya and Ahimsa can be useful to reduce the greed of individual and society. His concept of non-violence thus comprehended all living beings and represented the eternal values of life in his thoughts and actions. He insisted on the eternal sacredness of life that included a tree, plant, or a cow. Reportedly, the English historian Edward Thompson once remarked to Gandhi that wildlife was rapidly declining in India, to which Gandhi replied with sarcasm, "Wildlife is decreasing in the jungles but increasing in the towns." According to him, reckless and limitless pursuits of industrialization by all nations has posed serious problems for the very existence of not only human beings but also for all living creatures and all kinds of species on our planet. The concept of Sarvodaya is also similar to that of a sustainable development and forms a part of environmental ethics. Gandhi's vision of Sarvodaya implies a healthy development and environment that can be evolved by man to ensure his harmonious existence with nature and other living beings. Gandhi did not recognize separate rules for separate spheres of human life, but saw all spheres in an integrated manner, which exemplifies best the human ecological perspective. What he preached and practiced is equivalent to what we now refer to as eco-friendly approaches and a harmonious relationship with nature. Gandhi's criticism of modern civilization. Modern industrialist civilization has had a huge impact on humankind as well as on the environment. It made a small part of the population wealthy at the cost of exploiting the world's natural resources. Gandhi believed that it propagates nothing other than the hunger for wealth and the greedy pursuits of worldly pleasure. Hind Swaraj, published in 1909, criticized the modern civilization as satanic. He observed that machinery is the chief symbol of modern civilization and a great sin. It is machinery that has impoverished India. The distinguished characteristic of modern civilization is an indefinite multiplicity of wants, whereas ancient civilizations were marked by an imperative restriction upon and a strict regulation of these wants. Gandhi believed that the ancient civilizations were religious in nature that would surely limit worldly ambitions. Gandhi believed that true civilizational values are not present in modern civilization. In Hind Swaraj, Gandhi argued that what we think of civilization today is an illusion and that any civilization that ill-treated outsiders could hardly avoid ill-treating its own people. Gandhi's assessment of Western civilization and science emanates from his dissatisfaction with the divorce of science and progress from morality. He was not against the technology, but the technologism that creates a hierarchical relationship among men as well as between men and nature. Gandhi believed that the greatest achievements of modern civilization have been weapons of mass destruction, the awful growth of anarchism, the frightful disputes between capital and labor, and cruelty inflicted upon innocents, dumb, living animals in the name of science and technology. He believed a science to be science only if it afforded the fullest scope for satisfying the hunger of body, mind, and soul. Modern civilization involved an egregious amount of violence against nature that was largely seen as man's property. This undermined man's unity with his environment and fellow men and destroyed stable and long-established communities. While the Western environmentalists separate the message of going back to the nature, Gandhi separated the message of going back to the villages. He believed that the blood of the village is the cement with which the edifice of the cities is built. Ecological economics of Gandhi. Modern economy is propelled by a frenzy of greed and indulges in an orgy of envy. It makes man more materialistic at the risk of majority and the environment. Gandhi asserted that true economics stands for social justice. It promotes the good of all equally, including the weakest, and is indispensable for decent life. J.C. Kumarappa summed up Gandhian economic ideas as constituting philosophy that sought to create an economy of permanence. All nature is dovetailed together in a common cause. Gandhian economic concepts like Swadeshi, trusteeship, bread labor, etc. received attention and acceptance from the whole world. The Swadeshi spirit encourages us to consume commodities made from our own villages, thus promoting small-scale industries that help ordinary farmers and weavers to live happily. Limitation of wants is another important aspect in Gandhian economics. Gandhi urged us to minimize our wants, to minimize the consumption and thus reduce the burden on nature by avoiding hazardous wastes. Gandhi realized that the modern civilization and the market economics have a tendency to multiply the wants and needs of common people. Bread labor is another important economic concept of Gandhi. The Gandhian concept of bread labor encourages the use of human hands and body instead of machines to produce essential items like vegetables, clothes, etc. The economic ideas of Gandhi differed from conventional economics and bore close resemblance with ecological economics. The term sustainable development was not much discussed at Gandhi's time, but his ideal vision of the world known as Sarvodaya safeguards the rights of future generations through the welfare of all. Gandhian conflict resolution and environment. Conflict resolution is an emerging branch of social science that deals with the techniques to resolve conflicts between nations or between individuals. It can also be applied to address environmental issues. Gandhi never used this word conflict resolution. Instead, he used terms like mediation and negotiation. He never considered conflicts as problems, rather they were opportunities for moral growth and transformation. The contribution of Gandhi in conflict resolution was his working hypothesis that the non-violent resolution of group conflict was a practical goal. His philosophy of truth and non-violence contribute to the theory of conflict resolution. Gandhi believed that truth is one and different individuals perceive it differently. Nobody can claim that their perception is correct. If we are not sure about the supreme truth, there is no need of violence or conflict. So far as the Indian environmental movements are concerned, the conflict is often between different interest groups or between the state and people, and is often led by peasant groups or tribal people. It is often in the form of a struggle for the protection of livelihood, control over resources, or some form of self-determination. Environmental injustice and marginalization are considered as instances of structural violence. As Gandhi believed, violence and counter-violence will never help to resolve conflicts, he considered satyagraha as the only force of universal application, be that of ahimsa or love, to fight these kinds of problems. It's entirely different from mere passive resistance where there is no scope for mutual love. Now, coming to the conclusion, we sum up as several decades before the rise of environmental movements, Gandhi picked up fundamental environmental issues like overconsumption, violence to man and nature, and so on. There are several movements in different parts of the globe fighting against environmental injustice. Some of them are violent in nature, but in India, environmental movements have been forged by Gandhian traditions of non-cooperation and non-violence. For Gandhian definition of non-violence is far more than mere passive resistance. Rather, it is a way of life which affects everything from what a person eats through to how they relate to the world around them. Gandhi criticized modernization and industrialization for its lethal effects on the society. He observed that the Indian situation demanded a new vision on economics that is centered on agriculture and village industries. He conceptualized a new economic order based on ecological balance. The village romanticism of Gandhi has been considered as central to his environmental philosophy. However, going back to the thoughts of Gandhi is essential to build up a green future where there is no place for human greed. So that's all for today. We shall be meeting in another classroom with a new topic. Until then, I shall say you goodbye and good luck.